All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we're going to start off with the Student Council report.
We have a famous actor amongst us today here at the podium, so if anybody got a chance to see the play this week.
Hi, everyone. Is this on? Yeah, okay. So I just have a few updates. So for student life, we have AP and IB testing. The IAs for IB are officially coming to an end this week, and next week, students are going to begin to start to prepare for their IB exams, which start on the 24th, and AP exams begin on May 6th. Tomorrow, NHS and National Foreign Language Honor Society's induction ceremonies are taking place, and we have over 100 students being inducted into one or more of these honor societies. I will be helping run the French one. We had peer leaders sponsor the second annual spelling bee today during community lunch, which was a lot of fun. As for the arts, this past weekend, the musical company put on our spring musical, The Addams Family. Huge success. It was a really great show, really fun. And coming up on the 25th is the annual district-wide art show hosted at the high school. As for counseling, this Thursday night, we have a mock college interview night for juniors, which was previously just for seniors, but we've adjusted it to work for juniors now. And 11 visiting admissions counselors are scheduled to meet in person with over 30 of our junior students. Most recently, counselors have been visiting sophomores in spring semester wellness classes to complete career inventories. And following the tuition deposit deadline, there will be a visit to senior social studies classes to complete senior surveys. And the counseling office will also send their annual senior parent surveys out shortly. So be on the lookout for that. As for global citizenship, we have from the arts, again, the Festival of Arts being held at the high school, and film screenings will be added to the event from various film classes, such as IB Film. I think one of my films is going to be shown off there. And lastly, for athletics, we will be celebrating 20 student athletes who will be competing at the D1, D2, or D3 level in August. In addition to the 7 student athletes who were honored in December, we will have 27 Tusker athletes competing next year at the collegiate level. So that's it for the student reports. Thanks.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Anybody here from PTA SEPTA? Nope. All right. Now we move on to public comment on agenda items. All right. All speakers will promptly identify themselves. A maximum of 30-minute period, limited to 3 minutes per speaker. No district employee or student may be commented upon or identified by name or situation. Questions asked by the public will be referred to the appropriate staff members for reply at a later date or time. Questions requiring investigations will be referred to the superintendent for consideration and later response. All written statements shall be given to the district clerk.
This one is social study or not? This.
It's better. Can everyone hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So good evening, everyone. My name is Rachel Rabinowitz. I'm here today to represent the Citizens Finance Committee. I've sat as a volunteer on the committee for the past 2 or 3 years, even before my kids were old enough to really be in the district. I now have a daughter in kindergarten. And I just wanted to spend a few minutes providing information on the purpose of our committee and our involvement and perception of this year's budget. As you know, the commitment to excellence in education requires thoughtful financial planning, and as a committee, we have met over 5 times this year to discuss the budget and provide feedback to Dr. Blanche and Chris. The dialogue has always been open and interactive, and Dr. Blanche and team invite and are in turn very receptive to our feedback. As a committee, we take our role very seriously as we understand that we represent this entire Somers community. The committee is made up of board members, but also Somers residents like myself, who have financial experience and expertise. Personally, I'm a partner at a global CPA firm, but we also have many other individuals who have the requisite knowledge to provide meaningful feedback to the district. The ultimate goal for the district is to provide a nurturing environment where every student thrives academically, socially, and emotionally. However, it is understood that we need to balance the financial impact on the community and ensure the district is held fiscally accountable. As the district adapts to changing circumstances, whether due to high inflationary periods or other economic shifts and unforeseen events. They must align the budget with these goals. In our various meetings with Dr. Blanche and Chris and his team, we've reviewed the historical data, scrutinized all types of expenses, and together identified areas where the district can optimize resources. We have also discussed potential shifts in timing of capital projects and the impact of any delay on those on future purchasing power. It's evident in these meetings that the long-term financial stability and the need of prudent reserves are top of mind. The district is being very proactive in taking the necessary steps to reduce costs and increase funding to offset the impact of these inflationary challenges and tax settlements. For example, the district has reallocated services to BOCES, like EdgeTech, whenever possible to allow to receive more funding in future years. And they continue to reuse COVID funds to improve our K-8 literacy program and have preemptively aligned declines in enrollment with forecasted teacher retirement as to not cause any undue disruptions to our schools, teachers, and children. While the environment is challenging and the benefit costs are increasing at an unprecedented rate in the past few years, historical budgets have been approximately $2.6 million under the maximum tax cap levy to minimize the impact to the community. We all know that our budget isn't just about dollars, it's about commitment to educational excellence. And based on my participation in the committee these past few years, I'm confident that the decisions made by Dr. Blanche and his team reflect the dedication to our students' growth while also considering the financial impact to our community. Congratulations to Dr. Blanche and Chris on hopefully another closed budget cycle. And I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, move on to the central office report.
So we'll go ahead and start. We have two items that Chris and I will go back and forth. The first is obviously the proposed budget for the 24-25 school year. And then the follow-up to that will be aligned to our element of excellence on fiscal stewardship. So I'll go ahead and turn that over to you, Chris. If we up on screen? How's that? Excellent. All right, thank you, sir.
Just give me 1 second here.
So this will look very familiar to you as we've gone through, as we do earlier in the year. We do our non-instructional component of the budget, and then we have our instructional. Then we bring that together again with the support and guidance and feedback from our Citizens Finance Committee for a good amount of time and really some really healthy, good conversations. And then ultimately we land here today. So thanks, Chris.
Yep. So like Dr. Blanche said, this presentation is not too different from the one that we just saw a couple weeks ago. I'll just move right on here. So yes, it's been a nice budget cycle again. We've met with many different stakeholders, including that Citizens Finance Committee many times. And now we're all the way up to the Board of Ed adoption of the budget. Here we are tonight. Again, all leading to a budget and trustee vote on May 21st. Just as my typical reminder here, when building the budget, it does need to be a balanced budget, so revenues and expenses must match. So again, we have our kind of largest revenues, property taxes and state aid on the left, and then some of our larger expenses, salaries and benefits, transportation. So this slide is just going over again what the proposed budget is for 24-25. It's that $110,810,731. It's about almost a $4.6 million increase from the prior year, which is about a 4.3% increase. That use of fund balance and reserves, you see a large increase there. Again, going back a few presentations ago, we showed the historical use of our fund balance and reserves to kind of balance the budget, as we like to say, kind of shock absorbers each year. It's been as high as $2 million, a little over a decade ago. It's been as low as $25,000, and it's been kind of everywhere in between since. And then the other big increase is the revenue non-property taxes. That $936,000 increase is mainly due to the increase in the interest revenue that we put in the budget for next year. We've been pretty conservative over the last couple of years as rates increased pretty drastically. So we're confident that we can increase those quite a bit for next year. And then you see the tax levy is that almost $2.4 million increase, which is a 2.76% tax levy increase. And the estimated tax rate increase is that 3.84%. And again, in the last presentation, we kind of did like a 5-year look back on the tax levy and tax rate analysis. One of the driving factors for this upcoming school year is the reduction in the IBM property, which is lowering the assessed values for the community, which then it gets dispersed amongst the rest of the community. And again, the tax rate is not set until August when assessments are finalized. But there's nothing else after this that we have to do for that. It's just the final little tweaks here and there that the assessor makes on the tax roll, and then we'll get that number in August. Again, kind of similar slide from last time. The only difference here is the anticipated revenue. The appropriated fund balance, we have it at 1.25 million, and then we did switch some over to the ERS reserve. So that ERS reserve amount that we're using to balance the budget for next year is the same amount that we used for this year, and then the appropriated fund balance is making up the difference.
Chris, can you say roughly what's included in the special education piece? Because I know I ask this question every year, but I was trying to base it from the presentation on the special education budget when you did it by building, and then we had special education at the end. And I just wanted to make sure I understood, what was in the instruction budget for special education versus what's in that special education pie specifically.
So the special education pie is going to be specifically anyone that's budgeted in a 2250 budget code, which is going to be your special education teachers, teaching assistants, teacher aides, could be some speech teachers, occupational therapists. That's going to be the bulk of there. And again, that number on the pie chart does not include any kind of benefits either.
Right.
That's in a separate.
That's going to all be under employee benefits section.
Correct. Yep.
That also includes outside schooling.
Yep. The special education also includes the out-of-district tuition and maintenance for students.
Chris, the psychologist or language teacher, when they teach both special ed and regular student, are they separate in your color chart here?
So we don't. So you said like a psychologist.
Yeah.
So they.
How do you divide their time for them?
Right. For the most part, in that special education bucket, we're not splitting up anyone that's kind of teaching both. There's a few teachers that we do actually split it up. Maybe they're 0.4 in special ed and maybe 0.6 in general ed. So those teachers we do split up, and they would be split up in this pie chart. But like the psychologists and stuff like that, they're going to be in one specific area. Like the speech teachers are going to be typically in just one area.
So the special ed, this section, this pie, is not accurate, right? It's approximate.
No, this is the budgeted number. I mean, it's accurate.
No. Number is accurate. I mean, representation of the classification of personnel is not accurate.
So when you say
according to your explanation, the 0.4 or the division of these FE points may not be applied to everyone, every case exactly.
No, I think you're saying it is.
Yeah, it is.
It is?
The teachers that are split up between special education and general education, they are split up in these numbers.
Okay, so this purple pie is exactly the special ed.
Yeah, that is exactly how we're budgeting for next year.
That's actually is your question, I think, want to
Right.
clarify.
And actually, as Rachel mentioned in her comments about some of the inflation issues that not just us, but everyone has faced over the last few years. And then actually the next slide kind of shows that inflation amount, which we used at a previous presentation. The point of this slide is just to kind of show based on the 24-25 budget of $110,810,000, the budget would need to be at this $115 million, $115,692,000 to have the same purchasing power as it would have had back in, say, the 1920 school year. So I know that wasn't maybe the best explanation, so let me try one more time.
1920?
So the 1920, the
roaring
2019-2020 school year, I'm not going back 100 years. The 2019-2020 school year, you see on the right there, that budget was $93,677,000. If we account for inflation, to have the same purchasing power as that did in the 2019-20 school year, we would need that $115,692,000. We're only at $110,810,000. So essentially, we can't purchase what we did 5 years ago for the amount of money that we have in our budget here.
Chris, I don't remember the number. So from 2019 to 20, that's student population versus today? Do you have that number?
I don't have it off the top of my head, but it has gone down.
Right, I mean, when you compare it this way, certainly we should also look at the student population.
Sure,
I think that-
and as
so
we've
that's- Good.
as we kind of talked with the declining enrollment, the needs of our students have shifted. So we've reallocated some of those resources to meet some of those needs of the students.
Yeah, okay. We'll compare that, yeah.
Well, so that's what the 4.8 is showing, is that a lot of that reduction and things that were changed over time, the cost saving, the energy efficiency stuff that you put in. So if everything was all equal, we had the same number of students, did the same exact thing that we were doing in 2019, 2020, we would need $150 million
Yeah.
Well,
budget
that's
to
the
be able
reason
to
we
pay for that
we
now.
can survive. I mean, otherwise.
Then this next slide is just to kind of showcase again the inflation based off the previous few years. As again, you can see the last 3 years, inflation's been 4.7%, 8%, and 4.12. Again, that's why some of these costs are going sky high. And then as you can see, the CPI, the inflation factor that's used in our tax cap calculation is capped at 2%. And then you see where our actual maximum allowable tax levy limit has been over those few years as well. Again, 2 out of the past 5 years we've been at that levy. The other 3 years we've been below it, which again resulted in about $2.6 million that we did not put out for the community.
So what this is showing is we're capped at increasing our budget by 2.76%, but inflation was at 4.12%, so clearly we're not able to compensate for the fact that how much we have to absorb all of that cost coming in from inflation that we're not allowed to raise more money.
And the 2.76% is the cap for next year that we can raise via taxes with just a simple majority.
Right.
So we did account for some of the additional costs with the increase in interest revenue. But, I mean, if you look even just this current school year, I mean, our tax levy was 2.8% and inflation was 8%. So, I mean, we're nowhere near that.
And we still stay below what we were allowed to raise, which was 3.59%.
Yep. And a large portion of that, those couple years that we were well below the tax cap calculation, the maximum tax limit, was due to the fully funded foundation aid that we had, which we've talked about for the next school year, that the governor's proposal had some changes to that formula. Seems like they might be on the verge of approving a budget from the state, but again, at this point in time, we don't have that, and we're 2 weeks past when it should have been due, so we can only go with the numbers that we currently have.
Right.
And just a reminder, if that does come to the favor of the school district, we will go ahead and reduce our reliance on the fund balance that we've allocated to balance the budget on paper. So if it does tilt our favor, then we will go ahead and reduce the reliance on that, just to let you know. Again, like Chris said, we're just a few weeks away from the actual budget vote. We keep hearing it should be coming soon, but as of yet, not yet. So last time I heard I sat in on a group with Lower Hudson Advocacy Council, and we're hoping by Friday. But again, fingers crossed.
Probably a good thing to note, though, too, is the CPI and the inflationary rate is not indicative of the healthcare and retirement plan stuff going up. It is not following with inflation. It is well exceeding that.
It is.
What, the last 2 years is 17% increase?
Yeah, at least for the Empire plan, it's well exceeded what inflation has been.
Yeah, so about 17%. I think the 3-year average on CPI is 5.6%, right? So 17% over 2 years is massive.
Yeah. And
And if you add the third year in there, now into the 20%.
Yeah.
So with that number, that support that we also see with the inflationary piece, we're not unlike other school districts in the state where that same line item in everybody's budget for the health insurance is the one that's really causing the biggest challenge. As we would look at, we did earlier on the instructional and non-instructional side, our increases within the salary component there are much closer to the CPI index that is that one in and of itself, which again, previous slide up above on the pie chart, that represents a quarter of our budget. So when you see that quarter of our budget going up that line item size, you feel it, that's for sure.
Yeah. I think I did the math one time, and it's about 2%, just that. Those increases represented 2% of the overall budget on the 25%.
Just
of
on
the
that
budget.
quarter, yeah.
And I know a big discussion point is always that our enrollment's going down, but our, the tax levy is going up. I think it's important to note, just reading through the budget binder, it looks like we're only going down about 45 kids once we go through this graduation. So it's not a huge amount of kids leaving every year. And we do try to, I know that, and I think, well, maybe I'm spoiling it, it's coming up, but basically, even though we have been able to reduce things over time, overall through attrition and retirements with the declining enrollment, because of the needs coming up, it really is just a net. We saved as much as we could, but there's still money we have to pay for special education services, et cetera, that keep increasing.
And all those costs keep increasing quite a
Yeah,
bit.
we spoke a little bit when we did the kind of analysis of the staffing kind of from pre and post when that decline started, a net savings of approximately 7 FTE, but I think as the board pointed out before that we had some FTE that came on board, for example, for E&L instruction and things like that. So the scope is definitely increased to when our population needs have continued to change and the supports that align with there. So it is definitely a richer experience that we have right now than we frankly did before with our special education support, our second language support, our wellness support for all of our children.
Say mental health, wellness has been a huge piece, but I think it's important.
In particular, the counselor at the elementary levels and the secondary and stuff. My apologies.
Sorry, I thought you were. And we've decreased class sizes too.
Right.
We don't have classes in the elementary school of 26 anymore. Right.
Right. We've really been able to stay strong to, in particular, Primrose at that number right around 20, and at times we'll have close, may have 23 at the intermediate school, but not at a 26 number. So along the way, we did try to take advantage of, bringing those numbers down to a little bit more desirable.
Just the employee benefits, I had a quick question. That's up like 3 million, right? Close to it
Yeah.
for the year.
Yep.
What is it per employee? Does that fluctuate depending on the time that they've been here, or is there a specific?
So let's, for like
Is it an
employee,
average
like
per
health insurance
employee?
contributions,
Yeah.
it does, if you were here a little over, say, if you've been here over 30 years, you might contribute a little bit differently than anyone that's been here hired since. But the overwhelming majority at this point, over 99% has been hired after that change. So that's all pretty consistent with each employee.
Do you have a rough average of what it is per teacher?
I can get you that. I don't have it off the top of my head.
Well, do teachers have the option to do like a single plan versus a family plan and all that
Teachers,
too?
every employee can do a single plan or a family plan. The P&W Health Benefits Consortium also offers just an employee plus one plan. So it's a 3-tiered plan. The Empire plan is just the 2 options. And then if staff do not take the health insurance but they're eligible for it, then we also offer a buyback for them as well.
So if say we was a teacher and my wife had insurance through her company, I took hers, we refund them?
Well, there's an amount that we'll give as a buyback to you.
Okay.
Yep. As a, if you're eligible for the insurance, it's basically a cost savings if you don't take the health insurance for us. So we offer a dollar amount
Is
back
that
to
on
people.
like a sliding scale too, how much they get back?
It's in the it's
Or is that
it's,
one
it's in the
one
teacher's
set?
contract, and it's a set amount.
Okay.
And then, Chris, also in here, we obviously have the TRS system,
Yes.
ERS system, Social Security.
Yep.
All those elements are also inside the employee benefits as well. So
Yep, all of
that
that.
adds it all up. Yeah.
I brought this up before, but there's really no other option for us. So there's no shop. I know people just ask. There's no shopping around for a better plan. We're just stuck whatever the state gives us or the Empire plan gives us. Correct?
Yeah, I mean it's collectively bargained with the union, with both unions. If we were going to open that up, we'd have to negotiate that with the unions. But we are going to look at some possible other options if anyone's interested.
Okay, so we could if the union approved of it.
If it worked for both parties.
Okay.
Yeah. Because again, the Empire plan has gone up drastically, so it's not only becoming costly for the district, it's also costly for the employees. And even with the P&W plan as well, if there's another option out there that we could potentially offer, then we'll look into that. But we will have to just do a little bit more investigation into if that's a viable option or not.
Thanks, Chris.
Yep. And then these last couple slides are just again on the contingent budget. Well, first it's on the budget if it's not approved in May, then we have three different options. We can resubmit the same budget for another vote in June, or we can revise the budget and submit that budget for a vote in June, or we can, the board can adopt a contingent budget with no tax levy increase, and then no additional vote would be needed. If we did have to resubmit a budget for a June vote and that did go down, then we'd go to this contingent budget. And then here's just some of the potential contingent budget items. We're looking at, again, it's almost $2.4 million that we'd have to cut if the budget did go down. So again, there's only so many widgets that we can cut out of the budget. So unfortunately, it's going to be positions that we're going to have to cut, and it's going to be everyone across the district is going to feel the impact of that. So the additional instructional FTE reductions, coaching positions, there's certain restrictions you have with the contingent budget, so no new equipment orders, again, unless it's a health and safety concern. Same goes for any planned renovation projects. And then also limited use of the school buildings by outside organizations.
Are there fees for outside organizations to use the school?
Yep. Well, there's a.
Why would we cut those?
Because there's certain organizations that don't have a fee.
Okay.
Yep.
So it wouldn't be
that's
all together. It would
right.
be the ones who don't pay a fee.
Right. Anyone that pays can still continue,
Right.
and that's laid out in one of our board policies on the use of school buildings, and the fee structure is on there as well. And then the people or organizations that we don't charge unless there's additional cost that is being that the district would incur.
Mm-hmm.
And that wraps up the final budget presentation of the year. So our next meeting would be on May 7th, which is the public budget hearing, and then May 21st is our budget vote and trustee election. And again, two board seats, Heidi and Nick. And
Thank
that's
you.
it. Thank you.
We'll just let you roll.
And so if people want to go and look through the details of all the presentations and the budget documents, that's just right on our website.
All on the website.
Is it under the Board of Education? Is that where the budget information, I think, is?
It's definitely so it's on both. It's under the Board of Education, and then it's definitely also under the business office as
It's
well.
under both, okay.
Yeah, there's a few different spots you can find it on the website.
Good. Easier is always better.
Yep.
Thank you, Chris.
All right, Chris, just as you go ahead and switch to that next one, if it's all right, on the Forward and Excellence Report. So again, board, just a reminder, the Forward and Excellence Report is basically built along the way through the school year. And we would start with, our professional learning experiences, and we look at our 21st century knowledge and skills, whole child student. And if we look at today, we're looking at, I think on page 46 of the document on fiscal stewardship. So again, this is an intent, direct intent. Basically, over last year, we went back out to the community and spent some time talking about what would our updated goals and structure look like. These are the 6 pillars that we have identified coming out of that work. Walking into the project, we had basically identified 4 out of the 6, but coming out, we was determined that we would create this as a new anchor for us in our information area, providing evidence to the community, and transparency is on our fiscal stewardship. And then the last one that we'll see later in May is going to be on the family and community engagement. So again, thinking about data and information that provides the community with the board insights into the 6 buckets, our elements of excellence. This would be the place that we would direct anybody ever to. There's lots of information that's housed in here, as well as links to more detailed information as well. So we do have this up on the website, and it continually evolves because we go through 6 different meetings like this through the year, and each one of those takes a moment as Chris is about to walk us through with the fiscal stewardship here. So thanks, Chris.
Yep, no problem. So again, just on the left side here, that even just looking at that expenditure breakdown chart, that you'll see is a little bit different than the pie charts that we just saw in the presentation. So this is just, you see that salaries and benefits make up, over 70% of the budget, which we've talked about at many different presentations that we've had. Just that special education cost you see at 3% now, very different than the one we just saw at, whatever, it was 15 or 16%, because all the salaries and for that specific department are now in that salary and benefits tab. So that 3% is really then your added district tuition and then any kind of related services that we contract out for. Our district, it's got, obviously 4 buildings, about 600,000 square feet of space. We have about 55 acres of lawn and field that we maintain, almost 220,000 meals served each year, and almost 700,000 miles driven on the buses each year. Then looking at the top right of that next page, you have the budgeting during declining enrollment. This is what we kind of touched upon just a few minutes ago, where that kind of net decrease in FTE, that head count is about 7 over the last almost decade or so. And we've, over the last 3 years especially, salary increases have, maintained around that 2.9%, whereas the benefits, your health insurance and your retirement contributions, that has skyrocketed to up over 7%. And again, that's what's really been hindering not only us, but other districts throughout the state and especially the area. We talked about, again, with the declining enrollment, where we've also expanded the scope of support needed to support our students, and specifically special education needs, English as a new language, the E&L support, academic intervention services, and then also wellness support that we've added over the last few years. And again, just as
Declining enrollment is not unique to Somers. It's a pretty much overall statistical table that you look at, right? To kind of predict where things fall.
So we see all of the districts in Westchester County, I think, say 5, and those are typically more into a city area that are having a slight increase there a little bit. Mm-hmm. And the overall numbers across the state of New York also are in decline as well, too. So.
Yeah, just like I said, just like looking at the numbers, it's the declining, like people hear declining enrollment, I think they feel like people are fleeing or there's hundreds of kids leaving, but it's really, you're talking like about a class size full, like 40 to 45 students a year adds up over time, but it's not like drastic numbers where you can start cutting teachers left and right.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's where, starting roughly the decade ago, where it was a slow, gradual, declining in enrollment. So we were and have been able to, in partnership with our teacher and our teacher leadership team, to tactically navigate when we know a reduction may be coming, and we know we may have a retirement. So our teachers has been just fantastic allowing us to do that, so it doesn't negatively impact the classroom. The investment that our teachers have made into the schools, we made into our teachers, has not been negatively impacted because we've been able to see this coming. Again, we have a pretty stable enrollment, so that's been very helpful. So we know that we have basically about next 3 years, next year's our sophomore, junior, senior class, as they move on, we're kind of basically at our floor line. So that would be a piece that we will be holding our numbers, and it won't really be looking at any too much of a further decline in enrollment. We'll get those numbers there. So.
And then go ahead.
You up 47 on top of that. We just recently updated this. I did like that waterfall chart. I don't know if it shows well on this, but that showed over the years like the decrease of the FTE teachers.
In the prior.
So what do you want with the waterfall chart? What'd you say?
Yeah, I think that would be. I don't know. If you're looking to add more content to the 47-page document.
You want us to add the waterfall chart in?
I don't know.
Okay, we can look to see if we can
look to see if it squeezes in there.
Squeeze that in there.
This one.
Yeah.
And then on the bottom of page 47, we have the athletic facility upgrades. Again, it's been a few years now. The voters approved us establishing the capital reserve fund largely to do these athletic facility upgrades. And then the voters last year approved us to access those funds. It was $7 million that they approved. And then we went out to, we had to submit the project to New York State, and we had to wait for approval, which takes many, many months. And then we did get approval from the state And then we went out to bid, and the board approved those bid awards back in December. So currently, we did some of the interior ceiling projects at Primrose and the high school over spring break. So that was great to kind of knock those out. And the main, well, I mean, it's great to upgrade the ceiling tiles and whatnot, but also the main, one of the bigger reasons to do the project was to allow us to get state aid on the rest of the project. So, and then we're looking to break ground on the tennis courts any day now. So that'll be exciting to finally get a shovel in the ground and start to get mobilized over there. And then the plan is still to start the construction of the softball and baseball fields as soon as those sports end in June.
And as Chris was saying, just a real important piece as we have over the last number of years, decade plus, worked with our Citizens Finance Committee. One of the driving pieces is to, when we do make improvements to our athletic facilities, our intent is to avoid bonding any of that work. So you'll see here with this estimated $7 million project, there's a $2 million in interest payments the community does not incur as we have saved these funds in our capital reserve account. So we work with our Citizens Finance Committee to look at this. So they're needed. The desire is to, if at all possible, and we have been able to do that after this project. So again, there'll be no interest payments on there for our taxpayers. And the last time when we had to go ahead and resurface the athletic practice at the field at the high school, that was again part of a capital reserve project. So by avoiding that interest, that allows us to go ahead and do this work. And as we'll come here shortly, we'll talk a little bit about the next bond experience, which is a different envelope for some of the other projects we have. Chris did note our 6 tennis courts here. We are anticipating and working right now. We have, I think, an initial sketch back from our architect team. 3 of those courts, the tennis courts, will be also duly lined for pickleball. And so we're working with that team right now to get those lined and get that stuff ready. I think Chris has got a community contact to make sure that I didn't line them out. So I think we're going to make sure that we got the right distances and everything there. So thank you, Chris.
And I was getting to the pickleball lines.
You were. I
Yes.
feel like I had to say it out loud, Chris.
Yep,
I'm
I know.
sorry. So.
So you can see.
Oh, my apologies, Chris. And the kids at the high school, I bumped into a few of them the other day. They got the pickleball club. They couldn't be more excited. They're tennis players too, and they're like and so they're pretty pumped about it. So thank you.
So on page 48, we do just have a rendering of what we believe these tennis courts will look like. They are not lined in this rendering for pickleball, but the pickleball lines will be coming. And then we also have a rendering of the softball field and then the baseball field as well. And again, both of those fields will be full synthetic turf. And then they'll be getting some revamped bleachers and dugouts and bullpens and scoreboards. And we do have a video we would like to share from a softball player. Let's see here. Okay, hold on.
There's the details about the dugout. So you can go ahead and see, we're going to put the elephant on the side of the dugout, like that. And then you're going to have, you see in here where you put your helmets in those little boxes up there. So you come down the stairs. Your helmets in the back, and then we're gonna have a bench out in front so you can watch the ball too.
These are the 2 dugouts, and then this is the offside, this is the left. So that's the main dugout, and then one for the pitchers to warm up, and then one for the batters to warm up, and then for the away team they have to share one.
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome. So what do you think? Are you excited?
Yeah.
Are you going to come and see the field when it's done?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Quite a bit of excitement over the softball field for sure.
You throwing the first pitch out, Chris?
I don't think so.
Okay.
So again, now just moving on to page 49, we have the capital reserve account. Again, that was the same capital reserve account that we're using for the athletic facilities, so it was up to 10 million. So there's another 3 million that could be placed into that account. We currently have about 1.2 million in that fund, so we can add another about 1.8 million to get us to that 3 million.
And then you'd have to put it out for vote again to
use.
access that 3 million.
Right. And the intention at this point would be to include that when we go out for that May of 2025 bond vote that we're looking for, that we'll get to in a little bit. Then we got universal pre-kindergarten. Again, it's expanding for the 3rd year in a row. We started this process with universal pre-kindergarten when the money magically showed up on one of our state aid runs from the state, and we kind of jumped at it. We were one of the first in the area to actually offer it. We started with that one class for a half-year program, and that went over pretty well, and then we upped it to two classes, and then this year we're currently at 4, and now we're going to add a 5th class next year. And you can see just we're going to have about 105 students in our UPK program that is housed at Primrose, so there'll be 105, which is about 2/3 of our kindergarten class will be already experiencing Primrose before they even get to kindergarten.
And just with that a little bit, as we talked a little earlier about that declining enrollment, the only way that we would be able to provide UPK in our school district would be able to take advantage of space that has presented itself. And our administration and teacher team and custodial maintenance team has done a great job at Primrose allowing us to be able to go back and get those classroom spaces over. So now we have just a really great spot for our UPK program within our schools. And so again, the funds that we receive from the state are typically not enough to have an outside kind of partner provide their own space and the heating and all of that stuff to have it take place out of school. But because we have the schools, we already have the lights are on and the heat is on, the building is built. So in a great partnership with the YMCA, thanks to that team of leaders there, they've just done a wonderful job connecting and with our teachers in kindergarten. So it is a unique piece. I do not anticipate in the coming years that that number from the state will increase. If it did, we would not be able to add any more sections at Primrose for the UPK program. We are basically pretty much back to capacity of what we would have for our students and things. So that would be, if it came our way, that'd be a discussion we would have to kind of have. We wouldn't have any more space inside the Primrose campus. So, thanks, Chris.
A quick question on that.
Sure.
So we're adding another UPK classroom.
Yes.
Right, because there's leveraging declining enrollment. So we're bringing in more kids because, say, a 1st grade or 2nd grade is declining in enrollment. But when those new kids being brought in, those extra classes, and have to go to the 1st and 2nd grade classes, are there going to be rooms? Still, like, if we're bringing in more kids, we're taking away more room for the UPK. We're taking away from the 1st and 2nd grade classrooms. So now we have the more kids, now we have to move them into the 1st or 2nd grade. Are we going to have the room for them?
Yeah, we'll
and
have.
if not, what do we do? Do we decline those UPK classes?
Right, that would be, if it came to that, there'd be a conversation we'd all have to have here. But yeah, currently, so let's go back even a decade or so, we had we had maybe 12 or 13 sections of kindergarten. Now we have, say, 8 or 9. So those used to be 12 or 13 classrooms for kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade. Now we're down to, say, 8 or 9. So that's where the space has become available. We've repurposed some of those other rooms for, like this revenue opportunity at the bottom there is for BOCES, where we now rent out some of our classroom space to BOCES. So there used to be, the classrooms just used to be more occupied because our enrollment was much higher, say, a decade ago.
Wait, maybe I'm not understanding right. You're explaining it right, but I'm not understanding it right. So say we had 8 1st grade classrooms, so we take away 2 of those to fill 2 more UPK classes. Now those kids in the UPK classes have to go into 1st grade.
Right.
So we're just switching them over, those classrooms, or we're going to bring in more kids behind them.
So
how do we make up that room?
Yeah, when the kids go from UPK to kindergarten, there's going to be, at this point, say 8 or 9 classrooms available to them, because based on our projections for enrollment for kindergarten, we will have those rooms available. We're not going to be short any rooms.
But if it comes to a point where the enrollment's a little higher, we'll be taking away some of the UPK.
That's when we'd have to have a conversation if we want to pull back some of the UPK. If say enrollment spiked and we had an additional 100 kids coming in that we thought for first grade or something like that, yeah, we would need space.
Or into the school in general, whatever grade it is. It's-
Sure. But yeah, if we need the space, then we'll have to look at it again and revisit, how we can try to put the program on. But at this point, we're, based on the projections that we just got from our demographic study, we don't envision, there's a couple little blips, an extra maybe say 20 students here, 20 students there, but for the most part, seems to be pretty steady on our enrollment for the next few years.
Yeah, I just want to make sure Miss Winter and DeBenedetto have what they need.
Of course.
Well,
Yeah.
and right
so
now,
UPK isn't increasing the number of students we have coming into kindergarten and first
No.
grade. It's
Right.
just that they're coming to our preschool instead of going to somebody else's preschool.
Correct.
But they're all kids that would have been
was
coming
free.
anyway.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So it's just monitoring that. But that way we'd kind of know, because if we saw the preschool numbers increasing, then we'd know that we'd probably have kindergarten and first grade increasing
Right,
down the road.
because at
to
this point for
prepare
UPK,
that.
we're going to have 105 slots, but there might be 160 applications, which is going to be most of the, incoming kindergarten class in another year or so. So it does give us a little indication. If that number spiked up to 200, we need to we know the following year kindergarten's going to be a big class. So that would be something that we would look at.
yeah, starting in like ninth grade, it starts to be where it's like 180 to
Yep.
maybe 200 maximum, and then it just on down.
Yeah.
Basically in our district overall. But so I guess, the easier way to maybe put it is that right now, if we didn't have UPK in those 5 rooms, they would be empty.
I'm confident our teachers
Well, I'm
and
sure
our
you'd find use
administrators
for
would
'em. I'm
use those for
sorry.
something. Yeah.
You would find another use for them,
I'm
let's
still
say.
limping because I need these 5 rooms. So, yes, they would. They did, which we want them to do. There's space there. Use it. Use it for the
Right.
kids, and they have. The other thing I would say to the board also, we talked about future proofing ourselves moving forward. If you remember, with our 5-year capital review, we talked about category 4, the hopes, desires they have. I've worked with the architect team. We've identified 2 possible spots if we wanted to add a couple of classrooms in there. That's that level 4, like nice to have kind of thing. There is opportunity to do that. Not saying we have the need for that right now, but if that was a point, as they came across, that would be a conversation you could have with the sections of adding some classrooms in there to maintain UPK inside of our classroom, school district, our schools proper, with that regard. So the reality is again, 32 classrooms roughly only landed here. You're down about 24 now. You've got now 5 of these added back in for UPK. We've got a wonderful experience now with our OT-PT, really having a much more appropriate space. So they've used that space very, very well. So, yeah. And again, our demographers are basing our enrollment numbers that Chris just mentioned before on live birth rates. So live birth rates as late as the 2023 calendar year. Project those forward. We have a yield factor that's identified with the number of live births we have in Westchester, live births in Somers, and then they project that out. Their projected numbers are really quite strong. They're plus or minus 3%. So those numbers have been really much on. So we're not just making up, it's a projection piece that we have based upon live birth rates that we see. And so it's not like, we got to have it tomorrow. We'll know multiple years in advance. So right now, as Chris said before, what we believe we'll see with the next 5 years, we should be able to maintain the classes at 200-ish or 90 or less at kindergarten for the next 5 years, based upon the live birth rate and the yield per household, not corn, but kids. And so with that, the reality is we do have some time on our hand, and they have been very, very accurate. So it's not something that happened by accident, and so it's all laid out pretty straight. So thank you, Chris.
And maybe I'll ask the question differently. Basically, in the 4 buildings, the reduction of students are pretty even over the past, say, 15, 20 years. There's no particular section of grade levels that it drops more or less, or the entrance of kindergarten is pretty constant in a way.
Well, at 2 points, but we do have some grade levels that do peak up. So if you've got a grade level, let's say a little bit over 200, the grade
But
level.
not to the point that we cannot handle within the building.
Fortunately, that flexibility, it allows us to make those adjustments from year to year. We already know for, let's say, 3rd grade needs to go up next year, the whole other section of 4th grade, because that group of kids is just larger. So we need to change a grade to 3rd, 4th. We have the space, we have the room, and the schools, again, are using those classrooms available to provide other opportunities. Even our SAS campus of looking at a space where we're looking at exposing students to world language now in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. So they have that availability to use the space as long as it's available. So, yep.
Yeah. We don't need to refurbish bathrooms or things like that. So
We do need to refurbish our bathrooms for sure. And that is in the 5-year plan that we'd be looking at our capital improvement project, hopefully there across the district. That is certainly something we'll talk about a little bit more in detail. So
just moving on to the final couple pages here. One of the goals for this fiscal stewardship element of excellence here was to stay within one standard deviation of the average cost per student among all Putnam, Northern Westchester, BOCES districts. So as you can see here, the average for PNW districts is about $37,000. We're at $38,000, so we're well within that one standard deviation of about $4,500. And then the final piece on the bottom there for the maximum tax levy history. Again, this was going back to the last few years where 3 out of the 5 we did not go to the maximum tax cap levy, again saving taxpayers a little over $2.6 million. And again, a large reason for that was due to the increase in foundation aid that we received from the state, where they were fully phasing in that foundation aid that they had not been providing to any district for the last over a decade or so. And then on the last page here, we've talked about it a few different times here, and as part of our master capital plan, we're looking at our next kind of bond project where we'd be looking to ask the voters in May of 2025, about a $60 to $65 million project. And then at that time, we'd also be asking the voters to access any remaining funds in the Capital Reserve Fund.
And so as we looked at this one, you'll see in the last paragraph there, it identifies that the reality of basically feathering bonds off and feathering new ones on. So there's resulting in no additional cost to taxpayers. As we spoke when our architects and our team was here before, a good portion of this, multiple millions of dollars, will be towards repaving, concrete work. We have some roofing work and some of the basically building envelope pieces we need to do. We have a significant upgrade on our fire alarm system we're looking at, as well as some panels on some of our electrical area, as well as some unit ventilators, some HVAC, other handling elements, some of our networking areas that we have with some of our MDF closets and things like that. So basically the really exciting stuff. And so that has to be taken care of. That will be a good portion of the project. If we are able to go ahead and get after changing a little bit of our environment for our faculty and for our staff, where we're looking at the idea about following along with our mission statement about engaging all learners. And so we know absolutely that where students learn, where our faculty teach, and where we support makes a difference on our kids in the end. And so the idea is to come back and look at designing things specifically for learner engagement. The picture above there, I've had an opportunity to start meeting with some kids. So this is a group of some of our middle schools talking about what could our school possibly look like to have this be a more powerful learning space for you. So met with some of the students in middle school and high school, and continue going around with our community groups, PTA and teachers and such. The idea out of that is to specifically speak to the design for learner engagement here. And then what we're hearing and seeing is certainly things such as flexible furniture is already very highly up there. Support spaces, things like, the outdoor spaces, in particular our playground areas at our elementary schools, as well as the desire to have an improvement here at the middle school level. So we'll be having this driven by these smaller groups, building-based groups. This is the framework we're asking the team to kind of, after brainstorming, we'll line those into there. We'll come back, we'll prioritize, and we'll identify basically next fall, late next fall, early winter of here's the anticipated requirements we have for the building envelope, all of the areas I mentioned with HVAC and paving and some of our water elements as well as electrical. And then the second piece will be how can we impact the learner engagement in the classroom for the teachers and kids. And so we'll have the ones prioritized there, and then these will be prioritized coming out of the building to the collective board and saying, here's what they've prioritized in their buildings. Because as we mentioned before, to do the whole 5-year improvement plan there with all the category 4s was a little bit over $100 million. We're talking closer to $60 million here. So the reality is we'll prioritize, bring that forth, and hear the voice of the community and everybody there. So just want to let you know that as we've talked in the past before, this is where we end up going and things. So.
And we do have one final video from our architect. Just as a little.
Hopefully you don't have that other guy in there again. I would appreciate that. So thanks, Chris.
process to look at the existing building infrastructure and then discuss potential educational needs with the school district. It's really important for numerous reasons. One, well-maintained facilities really provide a safe and conducive learning environment for students. Proper maintenance preserves really the integrity of the building and really preserves the building for future generations to come. It also upholds the value of the community's assets, reflects positively on the district's reputation, and it shows that you're investing in the education of your students for years to come. While the district has done a really fantastic job of updating their facilities and maintaining the facilities, like any other component, even in your house, things deteriorate, things meet their end of their useful life, and there's a benefit there. Instead of piecemealing it together, and number one, instead of it being a maintenance project, this is actually a capital improvement, and a capital improvement is eligible for state education funding as well. So that really is one benefit. The other benefit is really your cost. You're getting a better cost with a larger project. You're basically able, with the same amount of money, to buy more product rather than spacing it out through many years. It really shows that we're being prudent with our financial stewardship. It really lays the foundation for a sustainable and thriving education environment for generations to come.
So you might recall that Mike was here earlier. He presented the 5-year building condition survey. And as he spoke there, the idea again about looking for this in May of 2025 is something that we continually work on over the coming years or future years, thinking about how can we go ahead and make sure that our schools are safe for all of our students and faculty. And the piece that he mentioned there is that it's not necessarily exciting, some of the things we have to do, but we need to. And the other piece is there, especially with the relatively significant increases in construction costs and related materials, delaying something like that has two pretty negative impacts. One, we've talked about in the past before, if we don't time this in the right appropriate way, it can have a significant impact on what is allowable within our tax levy cap, so that can have a negative impact on our revenues. Another one he mentioned is approximately, depending upon the area, anywhere from 35 to 40% of this project will be funded back from the state on a different revenue stream. So what allows us to get to this number, and it's partially picked up directly by having one bond go off, another come on, and then about 35 to 40% is covered by the state revenue coming in from that stream. Other part as well too is if we delay beyond that, because even we pass in 25, you're talking 2027-ish as when you're starting to mobilize. You delay it another year with increased cost, you're easily looking at, and every year you do that, approximately your buying power, as Chris spoke about before, goes down approximately anywhere from $3.5 to $4 million every year that you wait on that. So again, it's one of those things we'll continue to speak about, but I do like the way Mike described it as far as making sure that our investment continues to stay as it is in a really good place. And we minimize the impact on our community, and that's, again, the intent of no additional cost to taxpayers. Now, we fully utilize the opportunity for the state to fund the project at approximately 40%. And then the reality is we do it in a timely fashion so we don't lose a missed opportunity with this window. So thanks again for getting Mike up there, Chris. I appreciate it.
I'm sorry, I said one more quick question.
Go ahead.
For the capital reserve project, $7 million, right?
Yep, currently.
Where do, if say we run into issues, there's some extras that need to be added, where does that money come from?
So for that project specifically, that's capped at that $7 million.
So if we run into issues,
so there are
digging in,
there are allowances built into that. Yeah, if we ran into something.
Any unforeseen issues?
Yeah, so we have everything in there with our engineers, architects. There is an allowance in there for earthwork. There's an allowance in there for electrical work. There's an allowance in there for labor challenges, water. So they all have allowances. If at the end of the day, as we have on every one of our projects, met the number, there's what we call add alternates and say, hey, look, here's a couple of dollars. What's next on the list? We would add to the project. So those numbers are all built into those projects as identified with the allowances for those areas, depending upon if it's for the turf, if it's for the earth movement. They each have their own allowances that the architects and engineers, as well as our owner's rep that put in there for us as well,
So
too.
those would just be like estimates on historical work that they've done. Because they don't
Very
know what
recent.
could happen. You know,
It's on very recent, because that's the part we have, just again with our, and I think Mike spoke to a little bit, but the quality of partnership that we have established with different engineers and different teams. We have the same vendor who put in our turf before, who also did the resurfacing it, putting it in now. We have what they did for us and where that number came in based upon where we're moving forward. And they're putting in projects as we speak today, so we're just next on the list, so.
they put in the percentages of
Yes.
the material prices that go up.
Yes.
and
Contingencies that they built in.
They factor
They
all
live
that in.
that, yep,
Yep.
yep.
That's all in the bid documents,
Yes,
right?
Yep.
all in the bid docs. And they're good at what they do, that's the thing, they're very good at what they do. That's it.
All right. That wraps up fiscal stewardship for this year.
Well done.
Thanks,
All right,
Chris.
nice. Thank you, Chris. All right, committee and liaison reports.
Next meeting's up on May 7th. I think the only thing, just another reminder, I lost my note, the belonging event, I think that's still set for the 30th?
Yes.
And, the next meeting's going to be first week of May. So.
The next meeting for communications?
For communications, sorry.
Okay.
sorry.
All right. Is that at 8?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just going to put it in my calendar now, 'cause
Yeah, there was a placeholder put on for, so it should be in your outlook.
no, it's
Oh.
it's probably in my board email, but if it's not in my personal calendar, then it's not going to exist.
We're only sending stuff to board emails, just so everybody-
I have to transfer it over and then.
Yeah. And so policy was supposed to meet this week, and we don't have anything to update right now, so we're not having that one. And then Westchester Putnam School Board Association, just coming up. Anybody that's considering running for school board, brand new, on April 18th, they're offering a free prospective board member workshop. I think that's online. So you can ask Nancy Corretto if you have want any information about that. It's a great little orientation there. And then they also offer one for newly elected board members later on. May 1st and 3rd, they're having the Ed Law meeting, and I know Amanda, I think, has signed up for that.
I have.
May 6th, there's going to be an advocacy meeting. That's also online. If anybody's welcome to participate in that one. And then June 3rd is going to be the annual dinner and business meeting, and we're encouraged to have as many as possible of our board members and some administrators attend. And on their website, there's a voter voice if you're interested in advocacy things. And then I participated in the community conversation on civics that happened yesterday. Amanda was on that too, so you can add on anything if you want. Just watch your email, because they send out highlights. You'll see it coming from Stacy from Westchester Putnam School Board Association. And then if there's anything to add to that from my notes, I'll send another email to follow up. Or if you have specific questions. But the main things that we talked about were the seal of civic readiness and what school districts are offering that and how that looks. Community service requirements. It was interesting, some schools require as much as 40 hours of community service over 4 years of high school to graduate. That varied. That was a few that did that. Some have some requirements. Some do it like we do with in terms of National Honor Society, or like our IB diploma program requires that, some community service. We talked a little bit about civics instruction and where that takes place in various school districts. Talked a little bit about student involvement in the Board of Education. There are some school districts that have a student ex officio member that sits on the board, others that have reports like we do. One district, it was very interesting because they do a combined meeting once a year. They have the student council from the high school, and then if they have student government in the younger schools too. And so they invite them all to come, and they meet together with the Board of Ed for like the first half of the meeting. And so they all call in together, and then each school's student government kind of gives a report to the board. So just different things that were out there, learning about how districts involve their students in civics. I'm not saying one is better than another, just interesting to hear, those different perspectives. And then one topic that came up was about registering, how voter registrations are handled and offering kids voter registration opportunities, which we actually have a policy on that was up for our second read today. And then, and, you know, teaching students things about advocacy and encouraging them to advocate for what they want and engaging veterans, those sorts of things. So you can watch for that email.
Yeah, I also liked what they had to say. With one school district went in and actually had board members go and meet with kids in their social studies classes and talk about the budget, like obviously at a older level. But I thought that was really interesting in like how the, you know, voting's coming up and the role of the Board of Education in local government and civics. So it was an interesting idea.
Thank you very much for the update.
I also had
no other committee? Okay.
Yeah, sorry. We had a seat subcommittee last week centered around the work that has been done ongoing on discipline practices. Susan's worked with teachers, administrators, as well as sharing feedback in the subcommittees, and how they've revamped together systemically how incidents are tracked, how they're investigated, how kids reenter school after a suspension. So now, in addition to consequences, students are required to have a learning experience around what happened, as well as prep work for mediation. We also discussed work being done at the middle school to create school culture, and they focus specifically in on I guess, what happens in hallways. They found that was like the most write-ups for incidents. So in the fall, they've created a document. All the teachers worked on a handbook of sorts, so they could break down kind of what positive school culture should look like, how they can reinforce it, and what they're doing well. And they plan on implementing that in the fall to so that there's common language, common expectations across the school to try and create a better school culture around. And also, finally, we discussed the use of person-first language and being mindful of seeing the child and the behavior, disability, et cetera. Full disclosure, I had to leave early that night because I had to go pick up my kids from the Eclipse trip. But so I wasn't able to hear the whole discussion, but I definitely provided some input on how important I felt first-person language was in an IEP meeting, for instance, and how it's always important to see the child first and not their deficits or disability or testing numbers. So it's just an interesting way, all in all, important work that's been done this year. And last, I guess it's been going on for 2 years now for some of this stuff, to create systems and processes going forward to be consistent. So.
Great. Thank you all for attending those different meetings and updating us. All right, now we move on to approval of meeting minutes. Let it be resolved that the Board of Education have received copies of the minutes of meetings on 3/26 and 4/9/2024. Hereby approves the same.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, objections? Personnel consent agenda. Let it be resolved that the Board of Education, upon recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, hereby approves the attached personnel agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstains, objections? Nope. All right, CSE, CPSE meeting recommendations. Let it be resolved that the Board of Education, having received copies of recommendations of the meetings as listed on the attached memo, hereby approves the same.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstained, objections? Nope. All right, business consent agenda. Let it be resolved that the Board of Education, upon recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, hereby approves the attached business agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstained, objections? All right, and the adoption of the 2024-2025 budget property tax report card. Let it be resolved that upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education of the Somer Central School District does hereby adopt the property tax report card and the budget for the 2024-25 school year in the amount of $110,810,731. And be it further resolved that the date for the public vote on said 24-25 Somer Central School District budget be set as May 21st, 2024 from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. at the Somers Middle School.
So
We'll
moved.
move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstained, objections? No. All right, appointment of election inspectors. Let it be resolved that upon recommendation of Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education Somer Central School District does hereby approve the appointment of chairperson, inspectors, election workers for the annual meeting and election on May 21st, 2024, as per attachment. And be it further resolved that the district clerk shall be authorized to fill any vacancies in these positions which may occur prior to the date of the vote.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstained, objections? All right. The BOCES administrative budget. Whereas the Board of Cooperative Education Services of Putnam, Northern Westchester County, thereafter BOCES, has proposed its tentative administration budget for the 2024-25 school year, July 1st, 24 through June 30th, 25. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the BOCES tentative administrative budget for the 24-25 school year in the amount of $11,596,000 be and hereby is approved by the board.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstained, objections? All right. Elections to the BOCES board. Let it be resolved that the four individuals listed below have been nominated as candidates to the BOCES board to fill for vacancies for the term July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2027. The Somer Central School District hereby approves the following candidates to fill the four vacancies. Catherine from Garrison, Michael from Peekskill, Neil from Croton-on-Hudson, and James from Cold Springs.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstained, objections? All right. Attendance at conference. Let it be resolved, the Board of Education of the Somer Central School District does hereby approve a request from the Board of Education trustee Amanda Candell to attend the Westchester Putnam School Boards Association workshop, Ed Law Essentials, on May 1st and 3rd, 2024, at a cost of $50.
So moved.
Thank you. Do you want to talk about this one a little more?
$50.
Promise to share my notes.
No.
Anybody want a second?
Thank you for.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
This is the longest one to vote on.
It's $50. It's $50.
All right, policy second reading and adoption. Let it be resolved, upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education of the Somer Central School District does hereby accept the following revised policies for second reading and adoption. The 2410 formulation, policy development, adoption, implementation, and review. The 5605 voter registration for students. 9260, the conditional appointment and emergency conditional appointment.
So before we vote on this, can I ask a
we
quick
get-
question?
Do we get a motion to?
I move first.
Yep.
Okay.
So moved.
So move.
Second.
Okay, go ahead.
So for the voter registration for students, and I apologize for not catching this on the first read, but I was just reading through the change, and I'm fine with the change, but the sentence after it just seems redundant then with the change, I guess. So it says the district will do so by offering registration materials through a required class at different times during the year, which is basically what the paragraph that was added describes. So I wasn't sure if we needed that second sentence. Thoughts? Because basically the change is the district will provide students with access to voter registration and pre-registration applications during the school year and assistance with filing such applications. The district will inform students of the state requirements for voter registration and pre-registration. The district will meet these obligations by offering registration and pre-registration materials to their social studies classes at different times during the year, as well as offering in-person registration and pre-registration by the League of Women Voters twice a year in school. So I just feel like the sentence then saying the district will do so by offering registration materials to a required class at different times during the year seems redundant.
Yeah, good catch. That is
Yeah,
redundant.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't remember that one. We did discuss to also talk about in these clubs, the student clubs, but somehow that was striked out. Okay.
So it doesn't change the outcome of it. Should we vote on it now and accept it all?
Can we
And,
vote
Yeah,
with
we can
saying
vote on
remove
it
that
with-
line?
With that removal.
As amended?
Take that out?
As amended.
So we're taking out the 5605 voter registration for students is not being voted on tonight.
No, we can.
Vote on
We
it.
can. We'll just say
She just
we're
said-
Oh,
voting
with
on
that
it
amendment.
with that.
As
Got
amended.
it, got it. Sorry.
Put it in the minutes and
So should we have a new motion to vote on it as amended or no? Okay.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Stand objections. All right, we move on to public comment. All right. All speakers will promptly identify themselves, a maximum of 30-minute period, limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Speakers may comment on matters of public interest involving school operations and programs, but may not criticize or personally attack any individual connected with the school district. No district employees or students may be commented upon or identified by name or situation. Questions asked by the public will be referred to the appropriate staff member for reply at a later date and time. Questions require investigation will be referred to the superintendent for consideration and later response. All written statements shall be given to the district clerk.
Thank you. Alana Sofko. I think you know me. I am here today. I actually wrote something that had a bit of anger in it, and I don't really want to present that way, so I'm going to wing it. I want to talk about maybe the unintended consequences of the culture war around the IB program and the language that has been used repeatedly in this room to describe evidence-free, lack of information, etc. The kids are getting caught up in this. I feel like that's an unintended consequence. But I can tell you that a whole bunch of IB kids are feeling like they've gotten caught up in this. They're fighting after last Tuesday's comments. The activity amongst the kids has escalated. It should have gone down. Now, if this board is serious about not deprecating the IB program, I would appreciate that being messaged to the students. I know that the juniors are very frustrated as they approach their final assessments of how much work they've put in and still wonder whether or not they'll be entitled to complete the program. That's not fair to them. I also realize that some of you are new to board membership, and this board in particular, and I wanted to make you aware that your posturing and a lot of your language and your positioning is creating a hostile workplace for staff and faculty. The kids are picking up on it. We know the kids are watching the live stream since the Culture Wars set lights a couple of years back, and they're still watching. So I think it would be very important to not badger credentialed professionals in this room, in this forum. Now, I understand for some of you, you're information seeking, but your words are interrogating, and this is not the place for that. Massive disagreements that you may have with policies and people who are employed by this district should be discussed privately and not harassed and harangued publicly, because you know when you put that together, you create a hostile workplace environment that's going to cause a lot of personnel changes, which we believe that you are intending to cause, and that's going to cost us all money. It's not going to help our rankings, which we keep hearing ambiguously are important, but not what to do about it. And it's going to hurt our kids the way the IB language has. Those are the extent of my comments, and I would call on the leadership of this room to not enable that. That's important. You all represent all of us. We may not all have voted for all of you, but if I didn't vote for you, you still represent me and a lot of other people. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment? Nope. All right, now we move on to board member comments.
Chris, thanks for putting the budget numbers together. I know it's tedious and thankless and a lot of work.
Thank you.
I want to give just congratulations to all the kids that were in the play this past weekend. Also, one more note. I think, Nancy, you just mentioned the votes on the 21st. I know it's a little bit later this year. Absentee ballots, is that, when can people request those? I don't know if it's up yet, the form.
People can start requesting absentee ballots next week.
Okay. So just want.
After the petitions are due and we know the placement of the names on the ballot.
Okay. All right, I just want to make sure that it's available.
Is that the 22nd?
The 22nd, the petitions are due. They can start requesting them the 23rd.
One more thing. I know there's the Lions Club breakfast this weekend on Sunday, so I've attended a few times. It's a good community event. Worth coming out if you're available. And that's all I got.
Thank you to the district for, as we do every year, all of the work into the budget, putting together numbers, collecting information, visiting, all the outreach throughout the year to understand what the needs are and figure out what really makes sense. So now we put it out there, and it's going to be up to the community. If you have questions, this has been covered throughout the year. There's a lot of great information out on the website, a lot of the details and the numbers. If you really want to dive into those, it's good to do so. So the 22nd, new board member, any prospective board members, that's when they're due for to have their what's it called?
Petition.
Petition.
Not
Thank
a
you.
second later.
Yes. So if there's anybody out there, board service, it's, ultimately, I'm proud to be up here. I think we all are proud to be serving our community, to be supporting our public schools, and that's, a real important part of our community. So if you're a supporter of our public schools and want to continue to see them do well, take a look at that, see if that's something that you can step into. I want to thank the district. I think all the buildings were very supportive of the eclipse, incorporating some educational opportunities, having some flexibility for students and families to go out and experience it. I appreciate it personally because we took advantage of that, and I think a whole lot of students and families did. It was terrific. I guess one thing I will say, you look at the budget, it's very supportive of the programs that have been long in development and that have been growing. And if you look at, we get some of our statistics here on the advanced classes, the offerings, AP, IB. It goes beyond that, the dual enrollment, the honors classes. There's a lot, and I'm really proud that the district has been making this concerted effort to increase that access and those opportunities. And it's not a one-track line for what these advanced courses are. I'm, as a board member, I'm fully supportive of keeping these multiple tracks open because it gives opportunity for so many different people that if we narrow that down, that doesn't work for everyone. And so I think we keep always looking at it, but I'm proud that we're able to offer what we offer and that keeps growing. And I'm in support of that. And I think if you see where the district's doing, I don't see that changing. So I think that's the end of my comment.
Okay. Excuse me. I also like to thank Chris. This budget presentation preparations, a lot of good work. I also appreciate the fact that you take our suggestions, improving graphics and explanation of the details, and hopefully our budget will pass as usual. Another point I want to make is that this past weekend we had this high school musical. I had the pleasure to watch on Friday as well Sunday. On Friday, the auditorium, I think the 600 seats capacity was completely filled, which is a very good thing. If you missed it, I think you really ought to pay attention to the school activities such as these. And Sunday was our traditional, very meaningful performance to invite the senior citizens of the community to attend. I always also attend because I'm a senior citizen. So, and I also like to socialize with the senior citizen. But I do find this year actually is a little less than usual. I think usually we have more. In fact, the weather condition was very good. It's not, sometimes can be cold in April still. So I want to urge the community, particularly the senior citizens, to know that this is not that you have to be associated with the student. You know, I am a grandpa or some grandma. This is really for the community citizens, senior citizens, as a thank you note from the school district. We really like to invite senior citizens to enjoy the students' performance. And that's my message. I want to say this every time I get a chance to talk about it. Thank you.
All right. Well, I wanted to thank Rachel and the other members who are on the Citizens Finance Committee for the time that goes into that. This was the first year I got to be on that committee, and it's been a very interesting process. And it's really outstanding to be able to hear from an array of community members, their questions and how those get answered, and how the administrators talk through the budget and really work through decisions, with that community input. So thank you for that time, and all the other members that are on that committee, and to our administration for all the work that goes into putting that together. And then another point that I just wanted to say is how proud I am of our school district. One of the reasons I ran for the board was because I was proud of the school district as my kids were going through it. And now they're out of it, and I love being able to still hear what's going on. I still have that pride. I just read yesterday an article. I saw that our district has been recognized by was one of the communities with the Music Education Award from NAMM Foundation. I don't know what that stands for. I'd have to read through the article again off the top of my head. But we were one of only 10 districts in Westchester and Putnam that received that. And it was, how many? 975 across the country. So, congratulations to our music department. That's awesome. And then the other thing that always resonates with me, being proud of the district, is, when the questions come up about rankings and like, why did we fall down? Why aren't we where we are? So, I really, when the recent one came out about the Westchester County high schools, it's like, okay, local. They have 48 school districts that they're working with. Let me do a little dig and try to figure out what's going on there. Because when I looked at the chart that they had of information, there were definite things that were inaccurate compared to the facts that we have about our school. So I was like, they don't have the right facts there. But then also, seeing us ranked considerably lower than other districts when our test scores were higher, it didn't make sense. So I looked at how they got it, and I reached out, and I've had some dialogue back and forth by email. And so I wanted to share with board members, because this is, if we're concerned about how our district is represented and people are acknowledging, there's some definite inaccuracies going on in this report. And the woman that I corresponded with at Westchester Magazine acknowledged that. The biggest thing being when a large part of what goes into their calculation for rankings is the number of IB/AP, they say IB/AP courses that a school district offers, and then the student participation rate and their success. However, they only count IB or AP. So all the districts in Westchester and Putnam that have IB also do have AP courses. So actually every single district that has IB is being slightly misrepresented on here. They only put a disclaimer on the chart for one district, which is Yonkers, indicating that they use their IB courses, but they didn't count AP for them. Most of the other districts, that was the same thing. They have predominantly their students participate in IB, so they didn't count their AP courses. But Somers, they only listed 17 courses. So this is, again, data from a couple years ago. So we have actually more courses even now. But we had 17 IB classes, 17 AP courses, and that's what they used for their data. They completely excluded the 18 IB courses that we offered and the students that participated in those and how they performed on their evaluations. So a point of advocacy for me is continuing to email them and try to get them to, at the very least, include a disclaimer. So it's also not just IB that's affected, in their chart, they have a disclaimer. If there's another top performing school district in Westchester that uses neither, they use something called AT. So they have a disclaimer for that district indicating that their ranking is a little bit lower because they don't use AP or IB. But Somers, they completely excluded 18 of our AP, IB level courses and did not put any kind of disclaimer or notation on that. No credit whatsoever. So, point of advocacy, I think the more people that can reach out to Westchester Magazine and ask that they somehow in their evaluations of the school districts that they present, note the accurate information in terms of the college courses, that college level coursework that we offer, and consider, recalculating their formula to represent that. I think all of us, through our conversations are proud of offering both options for students. And most of the courses, they're not duplicate, it's unique course experiences that we're offering. So my little plea is, I'll email you the person's contact information, and my request would be, if it's something concerning you about how our district is perceived, that we all reach out and ask that they accurately represent us.
Aren't they using also several-year-old data from?
Yeah. Yes, yeah, there's a lot to it. So they were using the data from, it's 21, 22 is most of the data, but then they also pull some of their data sources from U.S. News and World Report. Anything that U.S. News used in like their some of their college readiness index and things, any state test scores that they used is actually from New York State. They're still using 2018, 2019 data. So also anything that we have improved over the last few years isn't showing up in any of this data yet. But that's for multiple districts are impacted by that, but we are unique. We are the only district that had half of our college level courses intentionally excluded from their data set with no acknowledgement.
Thanks for looking into that.
Great.
Yeah, thank you.
Welcome.
Thanks, Chris. Did a good job.
Thank you.
Thank you for everyone who came out tonight, sharing with her comments. It's greatly appreciated. I'd like to give a little shout out to the 4th grade girls lacrosse team. They had a great win up in Arlington this past weekend, along with the 7th and 8th grade girls who had a big win over Yorktown. A big congratulations to them. And I heard that I didn't make it to the play, but I heard it was a good one from multiple people. So congratulations to the Thespians. And again, thanks all for coming out.
Oh, I forgot one more thing. There was the girls softball parade is Saturday morning at 9, and I think the girls varsity game's right after that.
Okay, I just want to also say thank you to Chris and Ray. I know how much, being on the Citizens Finance Committee, I know how much work we've all put into these budget presentations, and I'm so appreciative of all the feedback that you've taken in. And Rachel, thank you for coming and speaking tonight on behalf of the Citizens Finance Committee and representing the work that was done in there. I also like to say congratulations to the cast and crew of The Addams Family. I heard it was wonderful. Unfortunately, I was away at a Taekwondo tournament, but and so I had to miss it, which I was really, really bummed about. And I also had in my list of congratulations to our music program, as we were one of 8 Westchester County school districts, 10 of, if you can count Putnam, and one of 975 school districts nationwide to receive award for Best Communities for Music Education by the NAM Foundation.
Yep.
The award recognizes outstanding efforts from teachers, administrators, parents, students, and community leaders to make sure students include music as part of their education. And I think this is not the first year that we've won this award, if I'm not mistaken, but it's kudos to the music department. It's a wonderful program. And I just want to say, I too am proud of our school district, and thank you, Heidi, for doing all of that data digging, by the way. I know I've said it before at prior meetings, but I think it bears repeating that there are multiple pathways for students to reach graduation, and while following their passions. And I think that came out very evidently from the students last week. I think it was that they are more engaged when they can pursue their passions. That was really what resonated with me. And I was so appreciative of the students coming and speaking honestly to what their experience at the high school in the programs. And I think Dr. Blanche in the Learning Office would agree that the intention is to keep these multiple pathways, whether it be, and I'm gonna go off on a list again, but full IB diploma, IB classes, AP classes, a mixture of AP and IB classes, Regents classes, honors classes, Project Lead the Way classes, science research program, BOCES classes, art classes, music classes. We have the GOLD program, the early childhood education program, the athletics program. The mission of our school district is to ignite passion in all learners. And I think you can clearly see it when I read through this binder, and I promise, Chris, I read all of it, that this is clearly what you can also see is also included is supporting students' needs to make sure they can access curriculum, whether it be co-teach classes, skills classes, academic support center, other tiered interventions that go throughout our school district. And I think this budget supports that philosophy. And I would never support removing any of these pathways for any of the children. And I think that needs to be said frequently and out loud. And I hope that other board members feel the same. But that's just what I wanted to be clear. And I think this budget does a really good job of supporting all of these programs for all of our learners, K through 12. So.
Great. All right. I'll start a little different order here. On the advocacy side, thank you for doing all that research on that. Again, with all the advocacy requests we do get, I think that is something that the board should be actually going after and communicating on, whether we do that jointly as a board or we do that individually and hammer with different things, but getting that ranking up is something that's definitely going to help us out. Chris, you already got a lot of acknowledgments on this, but not to underscore the value of, what the whole administration has done between Chris, Ray, the principals and all the other, administrators and teachers actually participating in this budget, over time and coming up with different ideas in order to fight those headwinds that we've had and we've shown, with the, rising, interest rates, the increasing healthcare and you name it, but it's been monstrous, right? And being able to see that still go down. So nice work all around, and thank you everybody on that one there. I unfortunately missed last week's meeting. I was away at work on the IB stuff. Look, there's a couple of things I'll say there. I appreciate both sides and everybody coming out and offering and coming up with their suggestions and opinions or concerns or questions on that. I think it's healthy, right? That's what the board meetings are for, is for some of those concerns to be come up and have the discussions. And board members are actually here to be inquisitive, right? None of this stuff happens behind doors. We're not allowed to. It's a public session. This is a board meeting. It's not just a presentation, or it's not a presentation for the actual town and everybody. So we should be asking those questions. I want to encourage that, and also the feedback from the community on that. With that said, look, I will say that, look, IB, I can't foresee, I don't think it's not going away anytime soon. Or not, I'm suggesting that it goes away at all. I do see the multiple pathways between people have AP and IB, and they could choose between them. Removing it, kids shouldn't be fearful of it disappearing anytime soon, right? It's the for us to remove that and replace that, we want to be able to keep all these different advanced courseworks in there. If we were going to replace that out right now, that would be a monstrous cost that I don't think anyone wants to take on right now. Nor I don't think it would be actually a good idea in the long term to actually get rid of that, especially at that level there. Look, it does highlight a couple different things, though, right, with a lot of these questions here, that have been coming up. I think, and it's not for lack of trying, right? I think we've offered up a lot of different, things with the administrators and trying to get awareness out there about IB and what it is and what the value is on that. And we've offered up many avenues for conversations. Some of them, maybe it's the, we need to improve our messaging. Some of it's maybe on just, deaf ears on that. I don't know what the actual thing is, but I do also see internally as a board, I think collectively we need to actually take a look at how do we manage some of these conversations differently, right? So I'll use the reading curriculum as something that we've done a review on. Over the past couple of years, right, we've actually changed our reading curriculum, right? And this is an audit that was done over X period. So we do audits of our building over amount of years, and Chris, feel free to help me out, but we do the HR audits, we do accounting, right? Just like that, we should probably be doing audits of our different systems, whether it's our reading curriculum, math curriculum, IB, AP programs, and taking a look at that and supporting that over, and just measuring it, but supporting that over whatever it's a 3 or 5 year period, right? I'd like to see us start getting to that, and then reevaluate it, in depth, in that 3 or 5 year period to make sure that, hey, we're still heading on the right path. Does the research and data show that we should be investing in AP, IB, math, whatever the common core, whatever the tools that we're using, but looking at those different frequencies and then measuring it over that time period. What I'd like to get away from is the year-over-year changes, and just looking at it every single year. So that's something I think I challenge the board to think about as far as how do we sit there and do that? How would we inspect some of these things? What that cycle might be to say, hey, look, do we take a look at some of these programs over a certain time period? Right, I know you guys are probably doing it, right, but maybe it's different involvement with the board and getting that sponsorship from the board on that. I think that's it, actually. Not very good closing, but anyway, again, thank you all for tonight and for everything.
I'll go ahead and close it out. I think Gomez is in the offense, and I think there was a great performance with you and Martisha. I'm not sure if we should do the dance again, but that was I don't want to step on your toes. Well done, son, the young man. That was really a pleasure to see you. It was good. The camaraderie amongst the kids on the stage and the kids behind was wonderful, and so I thank you greatly so much for making an impact on everybody who was there. I hope you got lots of thanks as a member of the team there, as well as everybody else. But I know even just over in my space, we got a couple of messages that you guys are doing such a great job. So thank you. The other piece I had in front of the board members, and I think there's a few that Liz might pass around to the folks that are still with us this late hour. If on that document you put our mission and vision on the first side, I ask you to take just a peek at that. And again, we've referenced our mission again a few times tonight, and our vision work as well. And so. Over the last year or so, we've been working on this idea about executive functioning, and so this idea about thinking about ready, do, done, and starting with done. So in this regard, thinking about done there's always room for improvement, but if we are looking, as we spoke just a moment before, about AP and IB results, you have that sitting right in front of you, board. You have that sitting right in front of you over the last 5 years, the historical performance of our children, for example, in our IB courses. Over that time, you can see that rate of increase there. I have to tell you, if my small 403B account had that rate, I would not be sitting here today. So you can see that number of increase. And I would say both the kids that are sitting for an AP exam, every single one of those AP exam areas has increased. Social studies, English, math, and science. IB, the number of seats have also increased as well, to the point that they have doubled over that time period. And as Amanda said earlier before, we have Project Lead the Way on board. We have our Regents experiences. We have many dual enrollment classes. Also during that time at the on the Forward and Excellence, you will see the performance of the children. While we have increased 20% or so in our AP program, our performance has stayed the same. Roughly 80% of our kids are scoring 3 or higher, yet we've increased the percentage to 25. So if you want information, board, if you want to see that, you have that in front of you. You have that in your Forward and Excellence document. So I thank the Learning Office for their continual look at all of our programs in these areas. So it is there. It's not something that is new to the enterprise of what we've been doing. Now I'm going to go to the other side. So this is this kind of idea about what do we have to do to get to the done. This represents our engaging our students, following our mission statement, engaging students at a personal level to ensure they do find that success. Last time I spoke about that double-headed coin, access and belonging. Access we've created that we're doing that work. The framework, though, we've approached it is looking at affective, behavioral, and cognitive engagement. The strategy, embedded honors. That includes every 9th and 10th grade child in our schools. As you see back to the 16-17 school year, the percentage of kids that had at least one honors class in 16-17. And then you flash forward to last year, 22-23, because that year is closed out. The increase there. Once again, I would say if this was your investment portfolio, which is, as educators, this is our investment portfolio, I don't know what better evidence of growth that I can demonstrate. And to the point, looking at this doesn't impact one group of students. This information is broken out by demographics. If you look at some of our typically underrepresented students, you will see significant growth in those underrepresented students. I would challenge anybody to find a better place and a better improvement than what our teachers have created and our administrators have created for our children. And again, by the way, over that time period, if you go back to that note on the front page, we have doubled doubled our participation in that. What does done look like? The ready, we have to have our teacher support training. We have to have our instructional support specialists there to support training. We have to have our learning office looking at curriculum documents, looking at our curriculum mapping. We have to have teams coming together, talking about best instructional practices. What can we do to support our children day in, day out within the classrooms? So again, as far as the evidence goes, that's all I got. That's all the team has, but I can't think of a better place to show you than, again, it's always been in our foreign exact. It's not over 1 year. Again, you can see that's over multiple years that we've gone from. Our next step, our next desire, I think as Amanda kind of tipped the hat a little bit there, we believe that our children in our school district, to create that embedded honors, our special education team, along with our teacher team who supports special education children, as well as students who are kind of in general classrooms, we have to look at our co-taught classrooms. We have co-taught classrooms in each one of those 9th and 10th grade embedded honors for social studies as well as for English. Our desire, our goal, our intent is to do the same for 11th grade and 12th grade for English. We believe, we have evidence, we have research, we have inside the district that we can ensure that experience for as many more of our children who can reach that bar going to perhaps an IB or an AP course. It's their choice, but we believe that by creating a space of access and belonging that our children were improved. So again, I would say if I don't know what more information I could reside. Again, I think it's on page 24 of the most recent report that the Learning Office gave out before in the year, 38, of the increase of total of IB students back in 2019 was 133. Last year we closed at 177 students who were taking the IB component there. And if I look at our total AP students, 249 to 316. Oh, and by the way, we were talking about declining enrollment before. We're doing it all when we got less kids. So more kids, more access, and more pieces across the board. So we can go on. There's a lot of amazing things our educators are doing at that high school. And I just wanted to close on that. And again, we've heard from our students speak to about how impactful it has been to them, and even just being part of some of the things that were here at this building, getting ready for students. I think it's worth mentioning again, we have more students next year enrolled in AP, isolation, or IB courses than we have ever had in the past. And then, by the way, the students who have expressed interest in the International Baccalaureate program has doubled. We have 31 children who were interested in rising juniors to participate in that program. And I couldn't be more proud of our faculty and staff, so thank you.
Dr. Blanche, these charts are beautiful. I have 2 questions I want to leave for thinking.
Sure.
The curves, let's do the first one. The first one was all these comparison IB and AP. I noticed the science curve is, the slope is lower, smaller than the rest of it.
For
That's
AP or
issue-
IB?
Yeah.
AP.
Yep.
AP.
For AP.
Yep.
It's just for AP, right? Or-
Right, and so what I would also point out, again, what I didn't put on there,
Yeah.
did not put our Project Lead the Way
Okay.
courses.
No, I just want to
Boy,
leave
our-
that as a
can I
question.
finish
I don't
it?
wanna-
Sorry, I just
I
don't
don't
want to
wanna
finish. I missed
analyze.
this. I want to finish it.
Oh.
Our Project Lead the Way courses and biomedical sciences are just shooting through the roof, and those are dual enrollment
Okay.
courses. So you're correct. I did not put that on there.
Fine. I
Yep,
I
they're
would like
awesome.
to get the answer later on somehow.
Sure.
The other chart on the other side is that the IEP, I assume the color is, IEP slope is steeper than the rest of the curves,
You
right?
bet it is.
Yeah. That is something that I've always been, sort of concerned that why in our schools or in the whole country, we always have sort of IEP numbers keep on going up. Okay, that's a big problem. It's not our.
That's not what that's showing.
That's not what this, that's not what that's
This
saying.
is showing.
This is showing the
students with
amount of
IEPs
who are participating in an
these
honors
high-level
class.
classes.
Ah, is that the?
Good slope.
That's a good slope.
That's a good thing.
Good, that's
I
good.
would challenge you to
I
find
got the
another
answer.
school district
All
that is
right.
doing that for
Then
us.
the other one is, I want to also notice, the male and female, I want to urge our male students to catch up.
And so I would point out that
Okay.
the male student slope is extremely strong from where it was before. They are.
But it's below the females.
Well, it
They are
started
closing the
lower,
gap.
too.
At the gap, the differential between the two
Anyway,
pre and post is
that's
closed.
my observation quickly. I'll go back and study more.
That's great.
Okay?
And Heidi, I'm going to go back to what you spoke about here. The rankings are not built for Somers School District. You mentioned before about a couple other school districts that AP and IB. Those school districts might have 2, possibly 3 AP courses to their 18. We have a full slate of 20 IB courses and 18 AP. That's a combination of 38 courses. Those school districts are not. Amazing school districts doing awesome things for the community and the kids. Just the system, the ranking, was not built for this school district when we have really powerful both experiences as well as things like Project Lead the Way, like I think Aoife was starting to talk about in our sciences area and stuff. So, or our science research pieces with our kids who, we've got 2 kids heading out to California for the statewide or the nationwide competition for science. So it's not built for it.
Yeah, no,
So it's
and they
not.
made it clear to me that it wasn't because it was inferior to offer both, but it was for their data analytics. It's much easier for them to just use one or just use the other. And that was the reason why they did it that way, not because they were saying it was better. And that's why my biggest thing I'm asking for is if that's the way they're going to do it, then they need to put a disclaimer or something that explains that, just the way they did for some of the other top performing districts in the county that, you know, that have things that mitigated their scores too. So.
Or they need better analysts.
Or better, better.
They put
better
more, they have to
analytics.
put more work into it is what the problem is.
All right, let it resolve that this regular meeting of the Board of Education be adjourned.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.